So Tiger got out of the cage a little bit. We're going to get into all that. I got a little excited. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here, that you thought of me to be a part of this. So Dynasty D, Dirty D, let's talk some ball.
Man, that intro gets me every time. What is going on, guys? Welcome into episode number 1 of the 3 and D podcast. I am your host, Dynasty D. Follow me everywhere on X, social media, YouTube, wherever you find people that do content, all 22_FF. And I am joined, as always, maybe sometimes, by the legendary ball knower himself. Hit him with it, Chef.
Well, I'm here. I am the legendary ball knower. That is my first and most preeminent title that most know me by. The legendary ball knower, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster, aka Chev90, aka Chev Doer Sanders, aka co-host and co-founder of the Two Guys One Pod fantasy football podcast and the Dynasty Pulse, and also a rotating host on the FF Dynasty, and also a host of Titans Uncovered. So I go by many names, but the one that I prefer is legendary ball knower. So we're here, and I want to talk some football. So let's get into it.
Last season, 2024, we saw the veteran running back renaissance. Historically low injury rates and a bounce back with scoring like crazy. And I don't even think we made it to the Super Bowl before the 2025 class was coming in to take everybody's jobs. You know, we have coaches like Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Jim Harbaugh, Sean McVay, bringing in the outside zone, heavy formations, just smash mouth football again. And I don't know about you, but it feels like 2016 again. So we're going to dive in here. We're going to look at some NFL trends. What the is outside zone anyways? Let the people know.
So this is the play that was became infamous, basically going back as far as as far as my football watching knowledge goes, made famous by Terrell Davis and Mike Shanahan back in the day. So basically a running back takes and your aiming point to attack the defense is the C gap, the outside gap of your offensive tackle. And so the running back is aiming his shoulders towards that gap and stretching the defense horizontally with the hopes of either hitting that gap and creating the running back creating an athleticism advantage and being able to hit it vertically, or the defense being stretched so horizontally that they can cut back and create and attack a different seam in the defense, be it B gap or A gap, because the defense is over pursuing, trying to cut off the running back from getting to the C gap, which is the initial aiming point. The beauty of it is if you have a special running back with the vision and feet aligned in this scheme, it's almost impossible for the defense to be right. So essentially it's a math problem where if you take one away here, that means something else is present, something else is available somewhere else. And it's the beauty, like the running back's job to work within the offensive line's framework and what their vision is allowing, and attacking the proper gap.
All right. So English translation, find hole, make cut, get fantasy points.
Find hole, make cut, become a legendary fantasy status running back, a la Terrell Davis, a la Clinton Portis, a la Christian McCaffrey, the list goes on and on. Everybody's running for 1,000 yards in this scheme. And if you're special, you run for 1,400 to 2,000. So
There
the
it
outside
is.
zone scheme, I mean, how could I forget to mention one of my favorite fantasy running backs of all time, gone too soon? I mean, he's not gone. He just retired really early. Todd Gurley. I mean, Todd Gurley looked like a regular running back in Jeff Fisher's scheme. Well, he had flashes of brilliance, but then once everybody was like, hey, we're just going to put 11 people in the box. Good luck, champ. He looked like he was going to struggle a bit because he's not the most laterally agile. However, Sean McVay comes in, installs the wide zone, and all of a sudden, Todd Gurley is one of the most, I mean, that stretch puts him in almost the fantasy Hall of Fame just from 2017 to 2018.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into fantasy football and like how you can use this to dominate. And for me, the reason I went back to 2016 was because I read a PFF article about Gary Kubiak's outside zone system with the Denver Broncos. And that's what changed everything for me. I started hunting Sean Payton, Alvin Kamara's rookie season, traded Alvin Kamara week 3, learned my lesson, been hooked ever since. But, with the way that things changed last year in the NFL, I mean, we saw a 12 formation, we saw bigger sets, we saw these running backs just absolutely dominating these defenses. There's no reason to think that it's not going to be more of the same as you look at these coaching hires and everything. So we're going to jump on into it here. So what's really going on here? Are these running backs coming in from this 2025 class? Are they just going to Thanos all these other running backs? Like, are veteran running backs back? Or is this class generational or both, Chev?
I mean, honestly, I think that the truth is somewhere in between, right? I think that this is the best running back class we've seen since 2017. That class with Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara and Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette. I mean, Leonard Fournette was the first running back drafted in that class. So I think that this class has potential to
How
be
dare you
better.
forget Aaron Jones? How
I
dare you?
listen. Aaron Jones was a twinkle in your dad's eye, son. Like nobody was talking about UTEP Aaron Jones, as a potential as one of the best running backs in this class. But this is how deep that class is, right? So you're talking about a guy that was a 5th round pick that inches his way to stardom. They took a running back in the class ahead of him in Jamal Williams. So nobody expected this outside of Aaron Jones and his family for him to have this type of success. And here we are, 8 or 9 years later, and he's on his 4th contract. And we're talking about him as one of the best running backs of a decade, right? So this class has potential to be that. Now, one thing my defensive coordinator used to always say, Alan Pavette, man, this little short dude with tiny hands that had Megan Fox thumbs all over him. He always used to say, nothing's as good as it seems, nothing's as bad as it seems, but somewhere in between reality lies. So I think that what happened in 2024 with this resurgence of veteran running backs, I would holistically bet against these guys repeating those performances combined with this running back class. There's not going to be all these studs that we see right now that we think are going to just be legendary running backs. They're not going to get off. All of them aren't going to get off to the fastest starts. So that's where you got to trust your evaluation. Hey, what do I believe about this guy? What is he showing me in limited opportunities? And so I think there's going to have to be an element of patience. And that's one of the most underrated aspects of Dynasty. So I don't know if I answered your question fully, but that's my answer.
I mean, that's the whole answer, man. I mean, you're the one with the answers, so I don't know why you're asking me. Yeah, I mean, just looking at it from the same lens as you, um, I think there's going to be a lot of both, like you're saying. There's probably going to be some veteran running backs that we don't see coming, and they're going to get clipped. There's probably going to be a couple guys at the top of this class that we're going to overdraft in fantasy football. And then yet again, we're going to look back and say, oh, this class was deeper than we thought. There was more talent. I can speak for myself from being in like the Dynasty trade streets and, doing a lot of stuff like that. I mean, there was basically a wave where you could get rookie picks cheaper than ever before, even though this class was generational, and you could get nothing for veterans. And now it's starting to flip. And now these late round picks, you can buy about anybody for a mid third or a late second that you could never touch before.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, nothing against Bashal Tutin, but like if he gets drafted in the 6th round, and he lands in a bad spot and he's got anybody ahead of him, you know what I mean? He might not get on the field until week 3, week 4. But yeah, talking about these rookies, talking about these veterans here, we're gonna take a look at Fast Draft. Fast Draft is a new best ball app. We have a rookie origins tournament, but I'm not the best person to talk to about this. We're gonna have the Podfather jump on and tell you all about it.
Rookie. It's all about rookie talk in fantasy football right now. So why not go use all that knowledge to do something other than a mock draft? Chris Jahmyr won $8,000 with just 2 teams last year, and each draft took 5 minutes. That's pretty good ROI. You can start doing rookie drafts for money today on Fast Draft. The Origins tournament is live. It is the place to go and monetize your knowledge of rookies and use your favorite player profiler host promo code for a $25 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
DraftFaster.com, DraftFaster.com. Use promo code DEGEN, DEGEN. Get a $25 deposit match. What's going on, Chef?
Yeah, that is by far my favorite game on the Fast Draft platform. Just being able to get ahead of taking advantage of what I feel like are some gaps in the current ADP in the app. I absolutely love it. Those are the teams that I've drafted most. I'll eventually move over to Flex 4 and D up, but that's by far and away my favorite right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, especially because like this time of year, I'm itching to do startups. I want to buy Dynasty Orphans. What better way than to jump in Fast Draft, check out some real leagues for real money, look at the ADP, work on your portfolio. And it's great for me. I live in Pennsylvania, but I'm 20 minutes away from Ohio. So I can just go over, make a trip, get lunch, do a turbo order, and then I'm home. By the time I'm home, my teams are drafted. So absolutely check out Fast Draft, draftfaster.com, Fast Draft. Start drafting faster. All right. So we're going to play some sleepers, breakouts, and busts here. Who do you got for your rookie sleeper in the 2025 class?
Oh, I mean, if you've listened to any content that I've put out in the last month and a half to 2 months, it is very, very, very clear who I am the most high on from a value perspective. And just, I quite literally, he's become my favorite running back in the draft. And that's Brashard Smith, the converted receiver from SMU. I mean, he's 5'10, he's 194 pounds. He reminds me, he has the exact measurables of a guy in Tampa Bay that absolutely lit the world on fire as a rookie. And I just can't, I can't shake it. Like that is the guy. That's the one. I am bricked up in the cement aisle for Brashard Smith. If you know anything about me, then you know by far and away I am a Brashard Smith truther. I make no bones about it, and I will not apologize for being right about that right now, here today, tomorrow, and in perpetuity. And if I'm wrong, feel free to just never tell me that I'm wrong and just say that, you know, we're just gonna pretend like I didn't say that. Okay.
Honestly, the only question about Brashard Smith for me is like, how high of a pick am I going to burn to draft him? Because I'm going to assume that everybody else that's in every other rookie draft is going to listen to us and they're going to draft him higher than everybody else and then take all the glorious dynasty fantasy points.
You don't have to spend, I mean, he's He's currently firmly in the 3rd round of rookie drafts. So at that point, I mean, that's found money, and that's a
But what
guy
do you
that I
do?
feel like is
What do we do if he gets second round draft capital? I'm starting to see whispers flying around that he might be getting second round draft capital, Chef.
prolonged beard rub. What do we do there? We profit. I mean, we could flip-flop. I mean, he's probably gonna flip-flop with someone who didn't have as good of athletic testing as he did at the combine. Well, I say athletic testing, the 40 that didn't run as good of a 40. And I think that, one of the guys that you're gonna talk about here could flip-flop roles with him. If he does get that second round draft capital, then we're going to be looking at him getting steamed up into probably the mid to late second. And that's still, to me, I'm fully confident in taking him. Like, I have a disturbing level of peace about how his NFL career is going to play out if he stays injury free.
And, I'm just going to run right into my sleeper because I'm pretty sure you were talking about Kansas running back DEVIN NEAL, if I'm correct.
You are
Yeah.
correct, bro.
So, DEVIN NEAL is kind of an enigma in my mind, man. When I watch the tape, he is just all over the place. Like, he's Doug Martin with better hands. Like he can ride the line on that outside zone like we were talking about and just make a guy look like a fool, man. But then you look at his numbers, you look at his combine metrics, you look at his RAS, and it doesn't look like that on paper. And like I'm gonna have to really dig in here. I got a couple other guys coming on. But DEVIN NEAL to me seems like the guy. He gets drafted behind, Alvin Kamara, maybe a Kyron Williams, one of these guys that we think is secure, that we're not really worried about. And then everybody just starts to tank that value. His stock goes down. And then he's like a one injury away guy. It's almost like what we saw from Bucky last year. They gave him a little bit, they gave him a nibble, and then he just ran with it. And, I could see DEVIN NEAL just getting on the field, getting over a 60% snap share, and the coach is going to look around and say, why do we need to take this guy off the field? Our offense runs better. He can block in the backfield. He knows his assignments. He knows when to hug the line and peel off on the screens. His rubs don't look like, he's going out for a pass. The guy's got old man game. Like, he is a general on the field, like quarterback type vision. It's just I worry if that athleticism is going to translate. What do you think?
I think that you can't double count things that you already knew. So we watched 3 years of him at Kansas, and we knew that he wasn't a burner. However, what you said is important. You said the old man game. One thing that I feel like is an underrated aspect of running back play is being able to make something out of nothing. And that's not necessarily to say like I make everything into a 70-yard touchdown like Saquon Barkley does, but Saquon's one of the freakiest athletes at the position that we've ever seen. DEVIN NEAL can create something. He can create a 5-yard run out of a negative EV offensive line play. And you see that over and over again. That Kansas offensive line is often outmatched, and he's creating yards. He's patient enough to set up a block to where he can get his shoulder square, and he can create 3 yards where there was nothing, or 5 yards where there was nothing. And he doesn't ever try to press. He understands his skill set and his toolbox, and that level of self-awareness and IQ is something that I feel like is going to translate. I would love for DEVIN NEAL to land in a spot like Houston, because people don't know that the Texans have an out in Joe Mixon's contract after this year. So I would love for him to land in a spot that's considered nebulous, where there's an incumbent starter and there doesn't seem to be a path. I would absolutely love for him to land in a place like that, because of the fact that, one, if you really, really, really are in these dynasty trenches, you understand what these contracts really are. and you've done the homework on who could be a cut candidate, Joe Mixon's cap hit after 2025 is $2 million. That's nothing to a team. So he could very easily be gone. And that's Joe Mixon's one of my favorite running backs, just one of my favorite running backs to watch. So it pains me to say that, but when it's over, it's over. So that's a situation where Devin Neal comes in. He's not getting a lot of burn. We saw the same thing happen kind of with Chase Brown. And I was going and scooping up Chase Brown everywhere. I went, it is on record. I like on Two Guys, One Pod. I go, hey, I think Chase Brown could be this year's Kyron Williams before the season started. And look at what happens. He gets the opportunity. He's the RB5 from weeks 9 to 17. So, like, you have to pay attention to guys like this because they might not end up in and we're getting more redraft players into Dynasty now, and so the patience isn't there, right? And I'm gonna just to bring this home, what I'm saying is they land in a situation that you consider less than ideal, and to your point, they're an injury away or they're an opportunity away from being the guy. And that is what I see for Devin Neal, because I feel like he's the professional's professional.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, honestly. As soon as you said Joe Mixon, I mean, that's the comp. I mean, exactly everything you said, that's Joe Mixon's game, like above average receiving. You know, he could see the whole field, vision, burst, patience, which for me is more important. I try to remind myself that an explosive run in the NFL is only 15 yards. We're worried about a 40-yard dash when in reality, that's like 2 plus 2.5 explosive plays.
Right.
You know, it's more important for that guy to diagnose the gap, juke to the left, not get his ACL blown out and get a first down, you know, stuff like that.
Man, I'm telling you, like it is. I was so happy that you put Devin Neal on there, because any chance I get to speak the good news of Devin Neal, like it brings joy to my heart.
All right, so we got to get moving through these here. So that's our rookie sleepers here. Let's go with our breakouts. So you had BRASHARD Smith as your sleeper. It looks like we're talking about TAHJ Brooks.
Yeah, so 1,500 yards in back-to-back seasons. I mean, he played the season at Texas Tech. If you don't know, BRASHARD Smith TAHJ Brooks, running back, Texas Tech, back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons. He has elite lateral agility for a guy that played the season at 230 pounds. He goes to the combine at 217, I believe, 214, excuse me. Goes to the combine at 214, turns in a 4.53. That is excellent news for someone who I thought might be kind of on the bubble. So he's definitely, in my opinion, secured probably 4th or 5th round draft capital with his resume and his skill set. And so I think that this is a guy that you can target in the 4th round of your rookie drafts. He's almost there every single time. And for me, that's an auto select, because he's going to have a long and fruitful career in the NFL, in my opinion. This is kind of the Aaron Jones type sleeper that I'm looking at here.
Absolutely agree with you. I was blown away when I saw somebody posted about, nobody told me all TAHJ Brooks had was 100-yard games. And I immediately jumped in and started looking, and I was just blown away, man. You're not kidding. Like, just incredible. And I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here. My breakouts, TREYVON Henderson, Ohio State running back. And it's not what you're thinking whatsoever, honestly. I mean, he's a great prospect. He has the potential to go in the 1st round. But from a dynasty fantasy football perspective, I don't think we are giving TREYVON the credit for the kind of game that he has and how it will translate to fantasy points for managers. I think it's classic prospect fatigue, in my opinion. The guy was so good, and then he was so good, and then the coaches said, hey, man, you're playing too hard. You're hurting yourself. You're getting injured. So why don't we maybe bring somebody in and you could get better at your craft. You can get your NFL game ready. And he said, okay, sure. They bring in Quinshon Judkins, and they both go for over 1,000 yards. I did not see holes in his game in pass pro. I mean, he was just cleating dudes. Like, and a lot to do with kind of what we've been talking about. We're talking about outside zone. There's a lot of these guys that match up with this system. TREYVON can hug his lineman's hip, and you don't even know he's there. The lineman's moving as fast as he can, and then all of a sudden TREYVON's coming 20 miles an hour around the horn, and he's gone for 40. We want to talk about explosive plays or 15 yards. I mean, he has Jahmyr Gibbs level breakaway speed and vision. And I just, the price to me is, I'm buying him every single place I can get him. He's my RB2 for 2025 Dynasty rookies drafts. What do you got to say about Trey?
I'm not as big of a Trey guy as most people are. I think that he's going to I think that the way that he was deployed at Ohio State is going to have to be the way that he's deployed in the NFL. I don't think the best way to use him is to hand him a 3-down workhorse role, as you alluded to with the injuries in college. So I think that people are going to see the athleticism, see the Gibbs comp, and then immediately jump to it. And I mean, he's a former 5-star prospect. You've seen him have the early success. You saw him be dominant in stretches in the college football playoff. So I like Quinshon better, but I think that there's going to, if he lands somewhere where they're going to platoon him and give him the high value touches and allow him to get out in the passing game and operate in space a little bit more, I think that that's the path for him to be the most fantasy viable. I don't think that if he lands somewhere where they're just going to hand him the ball 18 to 20 times and throw him the ball 2 or 3 times, that's the best way to deploy him. So I'm a little bit lower because of that, but I think that all the tools are there for him to be a very successful NFL running back, without question. I just have questions about his durability if you just hand him the keys and say, you're the guy, you're my workhorse. Here's 350 touches. Let's see how it works out.
So we're going to probably want to see him land in more of a 2-back wide zone system, hopefully pair him with a grinder, a la like David Montgomery or something like that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, let's say he lands in Chicago. They've got pick 39, pick 41. There's the tea leaves are saying that he's going to go in the first round. I mean, it would be really gross, but if he landed in a situation like Tampa Bay, Rachaad White's gone after this year. I mean, you're going to the back end of the first round. What does he do if he lands in Baltimore with Derrick Henry? And he's just his skill set and his athleticism dwarf Justice Hill's. So he could potentially be in that role, just occupying third downs and being able to hit home runs. So there's a few landing spots where I would be higher on him, but I don't think that the path for his best fantasy outcome is to just hand him the keys to a backfield and give him 350 touches.
All right, real quick. Highest first round pick you would spend on TREYVON Henderson this season?
106.
106. All right, cool. So we're going to move on here from these rookies. We're going to get into some veteran sleeper breakouts and busts. I'm going to get it started off here with my bust, and you know exactly who it is. It's Kenneth Walker III, Seattle Seahawks running back. And I don't know if you saw the news, Chev, but there's whispers in the air of the Las Vegas Raiders being interested in Kenneth Walker. And, already we've had DK Metcalf be traded, a few other things. So your boy, unfortunately for Kenneth Walker, he has been suffering with the same ankle, hamstring, and abdominal injury since high school. There's been 7 reported reoccurrence of injury on record since his days at Michigan State. And it's just very hard for me. I mean, we're talking about this 2025 class. It is generationally athletic. And I'm not just making that up to sound good on a podcast. Like, the numbers are there. And
yeah, the top
this
10
is
40 times. The top 10 40 times of this class were like the fastest of the last decade, if not
right.
more. I think you can go back further than that with that information. I would have to I can double check that, but yes.
Right. And we have
Right.
a Kubiak system coming in. Seattle fired their offensive coordinator because he didn't run the football enough. The same week that Kenneth Walker was put on IR, ZACH Charbonnet was named captain of the football team. And if you go back and look at it, in any game that Kenneth Walker played over 60% of snaps, he got injured the next game. If you look at ZACH Charbonnet, any game that he played over 70% of snaps, he was an RB1. I just can't see a real NFL GM and coach who have not drafted their own running back take a look at this 2025 class and say, nah, I'm good. We'll pass. You know, especially when you have Clint Kubiak coming in, whose dad essentially brought back the outside zone the last time it came back, you know, and now we're here again. So who do you got here for your veterans, your veteran bust, Chev?
My veteran bust is going to be ISIAH PACHECO. Yeah. So we're looking at him in the fourth year of his rookie contract. He's a 7th round draft pick. He has represented himself very admirably prior. Yeah, my tongue got stuck to the roof of my mouth there. I was trying to say admirably prior. That's what happened.
It's hard to come up with stuff to talk about a 7th round pick. Go ahead.
So, I mean, he's represented himself well throughout his career. Last year, though, when he comes back from the broken fibula, the broken leg, rather, he comes back and he's in a timeshare with Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt very clearly outperformed him. And that's not saying much because Kareem Hunt averaged 3.6 yards a carry. The Chiefs' run game was not notable to speak of. And could he absolutely come back and be the 4.3 yards per carry guy and the workhorse that he was presenting himself to be in the first 2 weeks of the season this year, and then previously in 2023, over the back half of the season? Absolutely. But I don't think that that's a likely outcome. And I do think that they're going to look for more of a long-term solution in the backfield in Kansas City for cheap, because they have so many different guys that they're going to try to hold on to. So yeah, I'm calling for the ISIAH PACHECO bust. Now, is he going to be terrible this year? I'm not saying he's going to be terrible. I'm saying that I think that the Chiefs are going to move completely away. The usage patterns from last year, post his return from the leg injury, are going to be very similar to what they were in 2025. Well, excuse me, in 2024, the usage patterns will continue, and that makes him almost unusable. And you have the contract uncertainty of, man, do the Chiefs really want to commit to a running back long term? That's a replacement level talent. I don't think so. And so that, for me, makes him a bust from a 2025 seasonal perspective, and an absolute must sell if he's on my roster from a dynasty perspective, and a must avoid buying at all costs.
What's the lowest rookie pick you would take to immediately smash accept button on a trade?
Anything in the second, anything in the late second, I buy.
Do you really think you can get a 2nd round pick with the fact that they just re-signed Kareem Hunt to a 1-year deal, though?
I mean, if somebody believes in the production from 2023 and the first 2 weeks, game and a half of 2024, I think that they would be willing, if they had multiple second round picks, or they were, just a little light at running back, but wanted to get keys to a high powered offense or access to a high powered offense, I think that you could get a second. He's kind of in that Najee Harris territory for me where it's like, if I can get something to get him off my roster, that's exactly what I'll do.
Makes sense. I mean, for me, I would probably just take a rookie in the second round, personally. I do have a couple Pacheco shares I've been holding just because, like you said, I mean, we can't really predict what Kansas City's going to do. They would probably prefer that he just comes back on the field and he plays like he did in 2023. I mean, the guy's the heartbeat of that team when he's on the field and he's running, doing high knees and smashing into everybody. And most importantly, Patrick Mahomes got roughed up last year. That he needs a back in the backfield that can pass protect, somebody he can, dump off, pass his outlets, etc. So yeah, I'm with you there. I would get out on Pacheco if I could get a second round pick. I think I'm going to hold right now, just kind of see what matriculates in the NFL draft first. We're going to kind of rapid fire a couple more of these here. Can you hit us with your veteran running back sleeper and your veteran running back breakout, Chev?
Well, my veteran running back sleeper is a guy that, I don't know if he qualifies as a sleeper. It's Travis Etienne. I mean, he's coming into the Liam Cohen system in that timeshare potentially with Tank Bigsby. I don't know that it's going to be a timeshare. I mean, Tank Bigsby represented himself. Are we double counting the fact that he just didn't look as bad as he did as a rookie? And Travis Etienne looked like the Monstar stole his powers. So I think that Travis Etienne, he's the more explosive of the two, even though it didn't look that way in 2024. He's more explosive of the two. He's in a contract year. With him being at around RB 29, I think that given 60% of the snaps, he could easily return top 15 to top 20. And, he's in a contract year. So I want to buy in at that price for this situation. Liam Cohen is the run game whisperer. He took that Tampa Bay run game that was awful and got them to 146 yards per game last year. So yeah, I'm sleeping, that's my sleeper, Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. Especially, I am trying to focus on getting as many pieces as I can in the AFC South this season because there's not a defense in sight. You have above average quarterback play, you have great wide receivers. So conceivably, there should be running back points everywhere. And then, you factor in Jacksonville's going to be running a West Coast system, another outside zone system. I honestly think you should probably buy Tank as well. Bare minimum, you have a handcuff situation. And like you said, if you're savvy with contracts like we are, that's a 2-for-1 all day. Travis Etienne gets traded. Travis Etienne goes to another team next season, et cetera, et cetera.
You split your stocks, and now you have two very valuable assets. They're going so close to each other in ADP, though. Like I said, Travis is at around 28 or 29, and Tank is at 33. So, I mean, you could definitely swoop those guys up like back-to-back rounds and then let it sort itself out in a startup. I mean, that's for best ball, but in a startup, you could do that, and Tank would be going much later than Travis.
In a already established Dynasty league, I would definitely be poking around because depending on how the manager feels, you might get a better deal on one or the other depending on the league. There's leagues where Etienne's worth nothing. There's leagues where Tank people still think he's not going to do anything, and then vice versa. Like I would not trade you Tank's Bigsby for Travis Etienne, but I'm probably in the 1% of people. But there's that guy somewhere, and you could probably trade a pick and get Etienne.
You could trade a pick and get ETN. You could trade an even later pick and get Tank Bigsby. And if you want into the Bigsby business, this would be the time to do it. Year 3 and 4 of that contract, year 3 and 4 of that contract with this offensive coordinator coming in and them potentially going from a bottom half offense to just top 15. If they're just median, those running backs are going to return value. But give us your sleeper, brother.
Have Arizona Cardinals running back Trey Benson. Now you got to hear me out on this one, okay?
Okay.
So, 2024 draft hits. Arizona Cardinals draft Trey Benson where, Chev?
What was that, the 3rd round? Like pick what was that?
2nd or 3rd round, I can't remember. But for 2024 running backs, I mean, that's high draftable capital in fantasy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you were an NFL GM, Chev, would you draft a running back in 2024 knowing that the 2025 class was coming, waste a 3rd round pick on him, and then replace him the next season?
Man, that's a tough question, but I don't think that I would waste a day 2 pick on a guy that I didn't believe would be a contributor to my team.
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at it from a rational standpoint, the Arizona Cardinals made a decision. They looked at the 24 class. They saw the guys that went back to college. They knew that they were going to come out next year. They had already scouted them in 2024. And they spent the pick on Trey Benson. They spent the pick on Trey Benson. I can't imagine that they were planning on drafting another running back. They give James Conner a 2-year extension, but if you know ball, you can take a look at that. And essentially it's a 1-year contract for 2025 with a bunch of get out money. And that's it.
Correct.
So they drafted Benson. They brought him in. They watched him develop. Conner stayed healthy. They signed an insurance policy for this year. And this is going to be the year that Trey Benson's going to take over the backfield in Arizona. And I hate to say it, I'm not a Kyler Murray fan, but I think if they get a more explosive run game that can add some more screen game and some more counter elements and just a little bit more distraction besides Kyler boot action left, Kyler boot action right, scramble or dump off, we could actually see Marvin Harrison. We could see this offense get to where it needs to go. But just specifically to the Cardinals, they already did the back-to-back replace your quarterback thing. I don't think they're going to do that again with running backs.
Well, I mean, this to me, I can't quite go to him breaking out this year, but I definitely would be in the business of kicking the tires on what the price would be, because I don't think that the price is going to get any lower than it is right now. You have an older running back who, like you alluded to, has, a bunch of get out money if he doesn't perform to standard this year. Let's say that he does his normal thing where he only plays 13 or 14 games. And in those 3 or 4 games, Trey Benson represents himself very well, 4.7 to 5 yards a carry, 16 or 18 total opportunities, 90 to 100 yards, and scores a touchdown. That would be enough for me as a GM to say, okay, cool. The young pup is ready, and we've got 2 years to figure out if he's the long-term solution. We're talking about a guy who's a 4.3 at 220 pounds and ran a 1.5 10-yard split. So he has the ridiculous athleticism. 1.52 would have been like 3rd or 4th in this year's class. You had like 5 guys tied at 1.51, and Jalen Royals and Matthew Golden ran 1.49, just for reference. Matthew Golden runs a 4.29, by the way. And I think that that's a guy that they're going to feel comfortable with. So I think that that's a great call as a potential. I would more have him maybe in the sleeper category because of the fact that he's a guy that you could get for super cheap right now, but it instantly pays dividends the moment that James Conner went down. He was my pick in 2024 to win people weeks because of the fact that we know James Conner traditionally misses time, right? So I do agree there. I'd be real sneaky about it and be trying to get him for real cheap right now.
That's definitely the game plan. He has been one of my target running backs. Anytime I'm working a deal, maybe instead of asking for a third, I might ask for a Trey Benson.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. The art of the deal right there, baby. Yeah.
Trey,
Trojan horse that thing.
Trey Benson, Tyrone Tracy, Tank Bigsby, all of the young running backs that were drafted that are supposedly, according to the market, going to be Thanos this season. Why not grab them for almost nothing?
Yes.
Why not? It's
Yeah,
worth a
no,
shot for the upside.
100%. And then my last guy is Breece Hall. I mean, I think that we're going to see a return to prominence for Breece Hall. We have an RB2 finish in 2023. That Jets offense disappointed as a whole in 2024. Tanner Engstrand, the offensive coordinator that's coming in, is out of that Detroit, out of the Detroit lineage. And so they're going to rely on far more wide zone and far more gap schemes, which Breece Hall was much more successful than the zone schemes that Nathaniel Hackett and whoever decided to call plays for the Jets in 2024 were employing. And so I think that we're going to see a resurgence. Again, this is a contract year for Breece Hall, and we've seen Breece Hall be extremely efficient. In his rookie year, he goes for 570 yards before he tears his ACL. Last year, he comes back. He shows you that he can be an Omega level pass catching threat because they don't have quarterbacks that can throw the ball further than 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And I think that his receiving profile is more than just a check down dump off guy. However, if we get into a scenario where we're using him like one of those, like an Alvin Kamara, like I think that's in his skill set. So for me, I'm trying to go kick the tires and like if I can get any kind of early second and just send it for Breece Hall, I'm doing that. If I'll send a late first, a very late first to go get Breece Hall if I'm contending. If I'm a top 2 or top 3 roster in a league, yeah, I send my first, no questions asked. If I can send a 2026 first, even better. I don't like trying to acquire running backs that are in the last year of their contract because it's so nebulous. I just got into a discussion with the Super Dynasty bros where we were talking about rookie contracts and running backs that I would want to acquire. And I said, I'd be really trepidatious about acquiring Breece Hall because he's in the last year of his contract. But I believe in the talent so much that if this offense can do anything with Justin Fields, and we know what Justin Fields represents as a running quarterback threat and what that does for running backs, opening up lanes and taking away that last guy on the line of scrimmage to have to play the read option, like this could be an explosive situation. I talked with the Podfather and we kind of went back and forth about how Bucky Irving was going ahead of Breece Hall in drafts, and there's just no way. There's no way that I would do that ever. I can't bring myself to do that, according to the Fast Draft ADP. So yeah, Breece Hall is my breakout this year because I believe he returns. Like the RB16 season that he just turned in was an absolute disappointment. The truth lies somewhere between him being RB16 and the RB2 in 2023. So yeah, Breece Hall is my guy.
I was out on Breece Hall last season, but it has nothing to do with his talent. His talent's
Right.
undeniable. For me, it was a lot to do with the circumstances in New York. You had Aaron Rodgers with the torn Achilles. MetLife Field is torn ACL waiting to happen, essentially. But you're not wrong though. Tanner Engstrand, he started his coaching career with Jim Harbaugh in 2007. He worked at San Diego with him. He was also on the 2014 San Francisco 49ers, excuse me, 2014 San Francisco 49ers offense. Vernon Davis, Frank Gore, Colin Kaepernick, Michael Crabtree. I'm missing a receiver though, but they're going to run the outside zone West Coast. And that's going to work for Breece because he can make that one cut and he can go. The only thing that I'm worried about in that situation that gives me a little pause is if we see them run the grinder first, a la the Detroit Lions, where you're seeing Braylon Allen on the field first, and then you're seeing Breece coming in as that change of pace. Now if it's a 50-50 split, if it's a 60-40, that's one thing. But I could really see with Justin Fields being a rushing quarterback with the limited skill position players, there might not be as many touchdowns to go around on the ground as we think. So that's really just the only thing that's got me a little cautious on Breece Hall.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Breece Hall played 72% of the snaps last year. So I'm really looking at that as, we saw some crazy touchdown efficiency from Braylon Allen at the beginning of the year. And that could be their insurance plan in the event that they don't plan on re-signing Breece Hall. But I am fully expecting a resurgence for Breece Hall this year. And that's why I'm less worried about Braylon Allen. I mean, like I said, 72% snap share. That's outstanding. And the skill sets, I mean, what is Braylon Allen even in the same realm, if we're being totally honest?
He's not, but Jamal Williams fell in the end zone 20 times in an outside zone offense too.
Well, he was getting all the goal line carries, and DeAndre Swift was his cohort. I think that
Right.
could be a little bit different. I don't know how good this offense is. And
I'm not saying it's from a talent perspective, I'm not saying it's apples to apples. I'm just saying from a scheme. So from them installing the scheme, putting it together and trying to keep it simple at first, I could see maybe in the beginning of a season where Allen is just vulturing, or Fields even, between Fields and even just a potential of Braylon Allen, it could really shave off a lot of points off the top of his ceiling. But like you said, I mean, if you said the sentence, you can buy Breece Hall for a second round pick, and that was factual information. So if that's possible, you should probably go do it.
So
all right, we're gonna wrap this up here. So one last thing, Sheb, before we get you out of here. If you could pick one moment that you could look back on in your life, football, fantasy football, why did you catch the bug? What got you here, Chef? Tell the people.
So real football, I was 6 years old. I hadn't played any organized sport. I just used to play in my neighborhood all the time, and I was like, I'm going to be a professional athlete when I grow up. And so from that moment forward, that was just kind of burned into my brain. And I ended up, having a pretty successful high school career, having a pretty successful college career, and then playing a little arena football. So I got to scratch the professional itch, not at the highest level, but that was that. And then in college, a buddy of mine introduced me to fantasy football. This is 2007. And I ended up drafting Maurice Jones-Drew with my first pick that year, and my team sucked. And I just couldn't, I was like, this can't stand. There has to be a way to get better at this. And that was where the bug took hold. And here we are, almost 18 years later. It'll be 18 years this fall. And I can't quit it. It's just, now that I don't play the game and coach the game anymore, it is just something that it's like, that's how I get my fix. And I could do this. I mean, much like golf, you can play fantasy football as long as you're able to be just, you don't even have to be ambulatory like you do with golf. You can just, as long as you have hands to hit buttons, you can play fantasy football. So that's what I plan on doing until, until I'm on the wrong side of the dirt.
Everybody always asks, who is the legendary ball knower? But we want to know, how is the legendary ball knower? And what work are you most passionate about in the fantasy football space?
Honestly, man, just, being able to do things like this, being able to talk real, being able to talk applicable concepts of real football and how you can take advantage of that, understanding the difference between man and gap schemes, understanding, just having a better understanding of trends in the NFL and understanding that it is cyclical. So, I mean, I coached and trained for years, so I have a passion for sharing knowledge. So anything that allows me to refine my own process and talk through those things, and being able to, being able to discuss with like-minded people is what I'm most passionate about. I don't know if that answers the question in the manner in which you want it answered, but if you're asking me what my favorite format of fantasy football is, it's Dynasty. If you're asking me what I'm most passionate about in the fantasy football space, it's being able to make content, that's actionable, that helps people refine their thought processes and become a good player. And having people listen to us is just a benefit.
Absolutely, man. It was so awesome to have you on for the first episode here. And as always,
Honored, man.
guys, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the Player Profiler Now YouTube page. And make sure you come back next week. Tap in so we can help you prevent the punt on your Dynasty season.